Hey guys, this is Gatsby with Tape, and today you join me for episode 4 of the Going Interstellar Multi-Solar System series, which doesn't really have a name. It's still called Multiple Solar Systems, just because I thought that would be easy to find and would be, interesting. But yeah, I guess that's the name of the series. But anyway, we start off with a test. A test of a rover, because I've been thinking about rovers a lot recently, how much I love them and how much I've neglected them and not used them enough. So this is a test of how this would land on parachutes. This Rover was the bane of my life for a couple hours today. I was like, ooh, I haven't recorded the Interstellar thing today, so I was like, okay, I'll record it, it won't be that hard. This mod's not particularly nice. Anyway, we're high enough in the air, you'll see what I'm talking about in a bit. But anyway, we're pretty high in the air, so we can just get rid of the solid rocket booster, which has wings on it, well, canards, so that it was easier to control in the atmosphere, which I've been doing more recently, because I usually never put wings on my spacecraft. I usually just put an SAS module, because I'm a computer man, not a mechanic or an engineer would be the right word. I'm quite tired. But anyway, so my words might be a little off. But anyway, we pull a chute. And then just kind of start falling. You can kind of see this rover quite well now. It's covered in RTGs and wheels and scientific equipment and a couple of lights, because I like to put lights on there. And I've put some of the scientific equipment. You can't really see it particularly well, but it's kind of on a pole to look kind of like the camera. And there's a couple of engines, which will be explained soon. But anyway, that descent took a little while, so I just skipped through it. And now we're touching down surprisingly well. I thought it would all just go to hell. And now I'm all flipped up. But I decided to try and use this engine here, which is actually meant for self-righting when I tip over, which I kind of decided in testing to also use as moving through water, just in case if I land this on, say, water in a planet, I'd be able to just kind of sail it back using the engine. Anyway, trying again to land on land just to see how well it does. I'm just speeding through this because it took a while, and there's a lot of stuff to get in this episode. Anyway, we ditched that, and it looked much nicer at 1x time accelerator. It was kind of elegant, but none of that for you. So let's just speed down to the surface once again. This is pretty much the same thing. I just want to see how well it does on land, because it was fine on water. 7 meters a second was absolutely fine, but the wheels are pretty weak. And we can see here at 1x time accelerator, it touches down a little too hard and breaks those back wheels, so it will probably need a landing engine, or maybe a second parachute, or it kind of depends on where I land, because I haven't really got a full landing site for this yet. But you can see the self-righting mechanism engine working there, kind of, but it's only temporary. But anyway, the next thing we've got, there's a lot of little bits in this episode, so I will be speaking maybe a little fast. But, yeah, the next bit is a satellite I wanted to put up, just a planning satellite that I'd put around Kerbin, so that I can plan my maneuvers. However, the problem with this mod is it just keeps getting rid of my spacecraft. That's something I'm having a problem with. I'm having a few problems with this mod. Overall, I'm actually quite happy. I thought it would be far more buggy than it is, although today's recording was a bit... It was a mix of me being stupid, the game changing slightly, and this mod being a little hard to work with, but only because it has to be constrained in the way it is, which will become more apparent later. I'm wondering how coherent my speech is right now, because to me it sounds kind of all over the place. But yeah, so I'm putting a planning satellite so I can plan my maneuvers, but it does get deleted by the game for some reason. I'm not sure why, but I'm having lots of these sort of problems, which is making this hard. Hence, this being a mini-series, not a full series. But anyway, now we've got something really cool. It's the Rover again, which you may see this launch a few times because of problems that occurred. But this is my awesome launch vehicle sort of thing I was working on last episode. It now has a couple of boosters on the side, and you're probably thinking, well, those boosters will break off. No, you're wrong. This is an SSTO. That just gives me a little bit more delta V. And surprisingly, I think those boosters, even though they don't break off, give me about 600 meters per second extra delta V, which is good. It gets me a lot more payload to orbit. And the funny thing is, this is my first nuclear engine in the spacecraft I've got in the cargo bay. And I was thinking, maybe I'll just use a bigger fuel tank and a liquid fuel engine, but actually, because I thought maybe it would be lighter because nuclear engines are quite heavy, but it turns out if I'd done it without a nuclear engine, just the transfer stage fuel tank would have weighed more than the whole spacecraft. So that was an interesting fact about my build process, I guess. But yeah, this is my first proper cargo iteration of this sort of spacecraft. I'm not really sure what I'm going to call this launch vehicle. Maybe just something like the Eagle, or I don't know. I've been looking at loads of space, like Greek god names recently for my bigger spacecrafts I'm working on in normal Kerbal and without any other solar systems. But anyway, this is our payload, and we're going to decouple it right now and use the one thruster I put in here to move away from it, because that was quite a big problem. And then we're going to deorbit this and see how well we can, just see what kind of happens when we put it back through the atmosphere. It doesn't have any ability to land on it, but I am going to iterate on this quite a bit this episode, because this mission kept screwing up. For instance, I put this up with the intention of time warping, well, I put the rover in space with the intention of time warping to a position where I could send it off to another star. However, for some reason it was deleted. So yeah, but I left it in because I really wanted to put this in, because this was the first proper test of this launch vehicle. It doesn't have any reusable capabilities on this. I mean, it's out of electric charge right now, it's out of fuel, it doesn't have any parachutes, but I wanted to show you just kind of how it falls through the atmosphere and why this may be a problem, because you're seeing it's probably, well, no, it's definitely falling nose first, so this could be quite hard to land on, but I'm thinking I'm going to parachute to land it anyway. But yeah, let's just watch it slam into the ocean, because, well, it's fun to see things slam into the ocean. More fun to see them slam into the ground, but I didn't really target it very well. I didn't have any control on the spacecraft was the main problem. But anyway, moving on to the exact same launch again with a slightly different rocket. As I mentioned before, for some reason the spacecraft was deleted. I don't know why, it's just a bit glitchy. This is the only really big problem with the mod right now. But yeah, this is the next iteration of the vehicle. I wasn't too annoyed because I got to iterate on this vehicle. So I've replaced the nose cones with parachutes, and I've replaced the LVT-45s with aero spikes because they're far more efficient, a little lighter, provide a little less thrust, but also aren't gimbaled, and because those engines will burn out after the mainsail engine, I'll have no control mechanism, because I don't have any torque on here, I don't have anything like that. Because it's a very minimalist vehicle, I'm just putting extra little bits on every time just to see how much extra stuff I can get to orbit and still get about 10 tons to orbit. Because I'm thinking it'll be worth it if I can get about 10 tons to orbit and have the capability to bring it back. Because I just quite like reusable vehicles. I like this kind of weird, not like a normal rocket idea. It's kind of like a space plane minus all the plane bits. It's kind of like just a rocket with a cargo bay. Yeah, it's like a space plane and a rocket had a baby and created this monstrosity. No, it's actually I quite like the idea of this. As I said in the last episode, it's just quite a nice, different design, because this is going to be a very casual series now. Everything's kind of screwed and breaking, but it's just a nice place for me to test weird technology. But anyway, we are into 1x time accelerate, just to kind of watch the beauty of this drifting through space with Kerbal blowers. No clouds on Kerbal in this scenario, because, well, because that would literally murder everything. Anyway, let's open up this cargo bay and release our payload. I do have, again, that one thruster in the cargo bay so that I can move the rocket away from the payload so that they don't get all entangled and break. But yeah, so let's decouple this. Oh, and you'll notice this also has a battery and some solar panels, so it doesn't run out of electric charge, so it can actually, do something to reuse itself. But yeah, we'll just leave that payload in orbit for now. A few RTGs on there. You can see it quite well now. There's the nuclear stage, which is the transfer stage, high efficiency, high thrust, and then above that is an ion engine, and then obviously the rover, which has its own propulsion actually now, so it can land a little softer, because I do have a planet I really want to land on, but were a lot of issues in this episode. This should really just be called All of the Issues, because it was a weird amount of issues as well. It wasn't just like all the mod not working, or all me being stupid, it was a lot of weird things. But anyway, let's watch this fall back into the atmosphere, because I did want to include all of these launches, just because it's a very important part of my iteration. But anyway, as I stupidly decide I'll time warp, it rips apart the launch vehicle, so I have no idea if this was successful or if it was just torn apart by time acceleration. I was impatient because at this point I was getting a little annoyed with the mod. Well, annoyed with the game, annoyed with the mod. It's quite easy to get annoyed at Kerbal Space Program, really, just because it's one of those things that takes a lot of time and can be a bit repetitive. But, I love the game and probably always will. But anyway, that belly flops. Anyway, back in space with more annoying things. This is me firing up the nuclear engine, and you can see it's just kind of starting to rotate, and I'm trying to pull it back. But it turns out the probe cores I've used no longer have a reaction wheel in them. They used to, but now they don't. I guess it was just a decision of the developers I didn't look at, and I really should look at things, but I'm just so used to building things how I build them now that I don't even think about it. It's just become like second nature to me. But yeah, so I screwed this up, and it has basically no control, and the nuclear engine isn't gimbaling for some reason. So I'm going to improve on this, because this was really annoying. It just started spinning. I had no control. He's already even tried using the little ant engine to try and get this to work, but the gimbal wasn't working, no torque, and the crossfeed of the fuel isn't working, so it's naturally unbalanced, and it's a rover anyway, so it's gonna be unbalanced. So this was horrible, and I gave up, because sometimes you just gotta admit defeat, spin yourself to death, and then build a new one. So, the next iteration, I'm just using the same launch vehicle. Because I just wanted to get this in the air, and stupidly of me, I didn't realize there was no torque. I still didn't realize that. I thought it would be like, when I detach the big nuclear stage, the torque will have more authority, it'll be easy to control, so I put another little probe core just in line so that, so that I could control from this other probe core so that it would be oriented the right way, if that makes sense. So, the other probe core was mounted on top of the rover, so forward for the probe was sideways for me, if that makes any sense. That's why I kind of reiterated like this. And, yeah, I'm using the same launch vehicle again, just because it's, fun to... Well, I always use the same sort of launch vehicles. You know me, I just kind of build one and that works, and then I iterate on it in small little bits. If you watch Solar Civilization and you look at my Triton 1 vehicles, that was actually a really just fun iterating on that. It was a reusable launch vehicle I did in the kind of style of Falcon 9, and if you watch through the series, it is like 44 episodes before the game just died. But you can see how much I really iterated on that, and that was very fun, and I kind of want to do the same thing with this, although this won't be anywhere near as long a series, because it's a mini-series. But anyway, again, the Rockamax burns out, and I need to put all the fuel in there, not because it's more efficient, but because it has, well, a gimbal. You can gimbal it and control it, and all my spacecrafts just aren't controlling themselves today, which is a shame, because I put a lot of thought into them, I just didn't put a lot of reaction wheels into them, which was just a big mistake. So let's open up this cargo bay, deploy this payload for a third time, get this launch vehicle away. I'm not going to bring that back right now, just because I really don't want anything to be accidentally deleted, or accidentally screw up, or for the gimbal just to decide it's not working. I'm just gonna go to freaking Dolas, and we are going to Dolas again because it's in the right place. I know what I want to go to, but I do really want to be going to Kerbal. So anyway, I skipped through the whole finding my encounter because it did take me a little while, not as long as it usually takes me in Interstellar stuff, but yeah, it was pretty easy. This required a lot of time warping. I believe I've been doing this save is actually on 50 years now or something, because time between transfer windows is so goddamn long. But I really want to be going to Kerbal, because I know Kerbal has a lot of really cool planets, and I know it has a comet, and I know it's a nice looking star, so maybe I will, if I can get my goddamn spacecraft to control themselves, and if I can, get past the whole warping issue. The problem with the time warping is, well, first off, it takes a long time. Second off, I get really, I don't know, I get all... I feel really weird when I time warp too much and just skip like 10 years. I'm like, I don't know, I'm weird like that. Maybe it's like a mild form of OCD or something. And what else? Oh yeah, and the, as I've mentioned many a time, the planets move in kind of like frames, so they don't have to move constantly, so they move kind of bit by bit, so you have to focus on them to make them move, and it's really hard to line them up when they're all just like jumping all over the place, and you can only focus on one at a time, and it's maddening. This series is maddening. I mean, I'm really enjoying it, and I have some really cool plans, but I need to figure out a few things before it stops being maddening. Another maddening thing is one of the fuel lines didn't work. I have 3 fuel lines from the outer tanks to the inner tank. One of them didn't work. The other 2 worked fine, so this became unbalanced, and I was having to control it, and it was another one of these control issues, and it was pretty head-doing. Yeah, this episode was a bit crazy. Just a lot of Well, it's stupid because I left it too late to record. So that's why this is a day late, by the way, just because I've just been insanely busy. I'd apologize, but I've been, revising to get a future. So, no. But no, I am actually a little sorry. I should have just planned it a little better, and it probably would have been a lot less faily an episode. But I actually usually, I'm pretty sure it's always about episode 4 of a series. I just have basically a fails compilation. But anyway, I have got my encounter with the star. I'm trying to get a little closer and stuff, but it's not giving me any information just because it would just be. I don't think it's within the realm of the game to work out. But yeah, it's looking like I'm coming pretty close. I can make a plane change maneuver. I can make a fine tune, and everything will be fine. Anyway, I thought I might as well talk about some of the plans I have for the series. I want to build a big man spacecraft, and I like the idea of the spacecraft from Interstellar, which I only saw very recently because I just didn't get around to it. But yeah, I'd really like to build kind of like a big ring spacecraft with 2 like Ranger things, just very much like the Interstellar spacecraft because it looks really cool, and I think it actually could be very, very what's the word? I don't know. It could just be very practical. It could because the way I see it in my head, it works very well, which you'll probably see one day. And there is a little hint to at the end of this episode, although it's not a hint now that I've just said it. But anyway, it's time for a little plane change maneuver to well, not plane change, a fine tune, a little bit of a plane change actually. Actually, I think most of this burn was a plane change. So yeah, it's time for a plane change maneuver so that we get closer to the star. Annoyingly, I'm having to turn with the engine's gimbal, which is not so fun, and very fuel inefficient. Well, not very inefficient, but kind of annoying. And next time I will make sure I have torque on my goddamn spacecraft. I swear to God, those little flattish probe cores used to have torque. No, I know they did, but for some reason they don't now. Maybe it's just the mod? I don't know, but it was horrifying. But anyway, we've done that plane change. And now I'm just going to skip ahead because I did a little more planning. And then we had another plane change, which you will see now, yeah. So that I'm in a better position so I can swing around and get close to the planet. So that I can swing low, sweet chariot. I don't know, I'm very tired, hence the awful commentary. I thought it might just be good because I'm a little relaxed when I'm tired, so I'd be less hateful of this whole process of making this video. Actually, no, well, as I joke, of course. I do quite like making these videos, but this one was, testing would be the word. But anyway, let's make ourselves an extra maneuver. I didn't burn quite enough, so I didn't get to the right position. But there we go, a pretty good position for getting into orbit around the star, and going to one of the atmospheric planets so I can land my rover. The funny thing about rovers is it's pretty much the thing that made me buy the game. When I first saw it, I was watching all the trailers, I was like, I don't know, this looks kind of cool, but I'm not sure. And then I saw rovers, then I just bought it right there, and then I just clicked buy, and it downloaded into my Steam library, and yeah, it was pretty good. Anyway, this is the planet I have selected. I've actually almost been to this in the past, but kind of got stuck around Kaiser, the big gas giant in this system. But I think this planet looks really cool, and I just really want to land on it. I really want to drive around it. Then I looked at Dawn. Dawn's actually just the exact same as one of the moons from Kaiser, just with ice caps, so that was lazy. Jesus, whoever made this solar system. I reckon it's Craig's Planet Factory who made all these planets. But yeah, I think Craig's Planet Factory produced some pretty cool planets. This also has an atmosphere, actually, but it looks a bit weird. And it's nearer the sun, so I'm not going to land on it right now. But maybe in the future, when I bring some torque and stuff. But anyway, talking of not bringing torque, this is where problems began. Actually, no, this was fine. I used the nuclear stage, just burned it off trying to get into orbit around the star. And I did burn off a lot of velocity, but this was a very high velocity encounter because I kind of lost my, lost the ability to spend time trying to get an efficient encounter. So just kind of went for everything, kind of had a pretty hefty slowdown burn. And annoyingly, once I ditched that, the mass was quite temperamental. And it was an off-center mass. And for some reason I have no torque in both my probe cores. Yeah, seriously, check your probe cores for torque. Because I didn't, and as you can see on the navball right now, it started spinning out under the thrust of an ion engine. I mean, come on. And then just skipping ahead, and you can see it's still spinning out, and I tried to just kind of like get it in the right position, and then time warp, and then burn, and then time warp and stuff, but it was just like such a long thing, and I did the maneuver node like right now, as you'll see, and it would have been a massive burn, and it would have been fine if it had pointed straight. I could have sat through that because I would just watch something else, but it would have taken too long to have to keep, you know, time warp glitching my way to stay still and flipping around, and yeah. So after all of this, I abandoned this mission. You can't say I'm not committed. That was commitment to that goddamn mission. But anyway, on to something more less painful. Except for these guys, because this plane doesn't fly very well. This is kind of my idea for a rocket-powered plane, because I know I'm probably going to be landing on some atmospheric worlds that don't consist of oxygen, so I'd need a rocket-powered atmospheric plane, and this is my solution. Mainly because I want to build something that looks kind of like the Ranger spacecraft from Interstellar, because I think they look really cool, and I want to put them in a big ring spacecraft, and I want to go into that weird place with the fifth dimension in a three-dimensional space, and then love saves the day or something. Interstellar was a bit weird. Interstellar was a good film, but, like, I mean, some of the science was a bit off. I think Scott Manley pointed it out quite well. Just like, yeah, we have limited fuel. Okay, we'll just get out of this gravity well of a black hole. And, but most of it was actually pretty good. I like the stuff about time dilation, and the black hole was goddamn beautiful. And I really like the spacecraft, and I really like the end bit. And I was a little unsure about the whole fifth dimension. Oh no, my favourite bit was when the woman was like, love transcends space, and then Matthew McConaughey just explains to her the physical process, like the chemical process of love and why it exists. I was like, thank you, because I swear to God, if you went to the other planet because of love, I would have slapped a bitch. Anyway, but yeah, this spacecraft is just basically my idea for maybe being able to land on an atmospheric planet that doesn't have oxygen. And obviously it's just a husk of it right now, because it's got, like, no extra cool parts. But yeah, so it flies pretty nicely, but then it gets a bit too stable, so the nose just points down. And I should be transferring fuel right now, but I didn't, for some reason, draw that conclusion myself until about now-ish. So, yeah, this might be a bit doomed for failure. But I did end up trying to go for a landing on the grass, just because that's the kind of rough ground I'd be landing on another planet, unless there's aliens who built me runways, which would be nice, but it's not to be. So yeah, I'd start transferring fuel, accidentally click away, and slam into the ground. But somehow I feel like those astronauts will be alive for future episodes, because I hit revert at the end of this. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it wasn't as painful to watch as it was to fly without talk. I will see you next time.